Hey, Mark Martin, what's going on, my brother? How are you doing?
What's up, guy? How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I can't complain, dude. Thank you so much for taking some time today to hang out with me and record this podcast.
Absolutely, absolutely. Been looking forward to it for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, man. Unfortunately, we had to reschedule. You had a little case of not feeling so good, huh?
Yeah. So I've never had that happen before. I literally got on the plane, sat down, did everything, and then I'm like, get me off this plane. It was. So come to find out, it was vertigo from the race car, from being in the race car so long. So the G forces and I guess it messes with your inner ear. And that next day I was toast, and it stayed with me for a week, dude. I
Oh,
went to so I feel horrible. I had to cancel that trip. So I tried again the next day because I was supposed to go to Salt Lake City. So I went, and it was horrible the whole time I was there, and I felt bad for the guy I was with. Because I'm like, he wanted to take me on this little excursion in the car down to see their teams. They sponsor a race team in the Pirelli World Challenge, and the team keeps their cars there. And he wanted to take me and show me the cars and stuff. And we're driving, and we got into this traffic. I'm like, I got to get out of this car.
oh man.
It's like 28 degrees outside, and I'm rolling the window down, and it was weird. So, but I
Yeah,
come
man.
to find out it was vertigo.
Yeah, man. Turns out maybe realtors have to take it easy with the race cars, huh?
Right.
So,
Yeah. Or
so
get
I
in
want
shape or something.
to, or something. We'll go into that. Like I definitely want to talk about the race car stuff because that's obviously that's I know your passion or one of your passions, anyways. And so I want to be able to talk about that today too. But obviously, with this being a podcast really designed to help realtors sell more real estate, right, and kind of up their game and what they're doing in the real estate business. I want to focus there, but we got to talk about the race cars before we wrap up today. So don't let me
For
forget.
sure.
Okay. Well, cool.
Yep.
So, Mark, do this. Tell who is Mark Martin, man? How long you been in real estate? You're based in Austin, Texas. How long have you been there? And tell me about your business today.
So I got licensed in Florida in 1999. Uh, Came to Texas. I grew up in Texas, so I came back to Texas after several stops across the country in the corporate world. Uh, Launched in Texas in late 2000, early 2001. Didn't know anybody in Austin. I just knew Austin was where I wanted to live. It's a great, great spot. Um, built up, prospected expireds and FISBOs, and did my thing. And 2004 was doing about 20 million a year. Had a buyer's agent and an admin back when teams were just like a concept. And I took the typical ego-based approach, and I said, hey, I should be my own broker and open my own broker shop. So I went out and bought a franchise out of Florida that I was familiar with and brought it to Texas. And I didn't just buy one franchise location. I bought the whole state of Texas.
Oh, this is why I
Put
like you.
together.
This is why I like
Yeah.
you. Now I know why. It's because when you do something, especially when you screw up, like it's not just like a little bit. Like you go big.
Yeah. If you're gonna fail, fuck man, go big.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah, I went all in, and I drug a bunch of people with me, unfortunately. But we grew quickly. We recruited 160 agents in 18 months here in Austin.
That's legit.
I hired John Cheplack, our good friend and mentor. I hired John in 2004 to be my recruiting coach because I had a real estate coach, and I was like, dude, if I'm going to do this right, I need a coach, So I Google real estate recruiting coach, and up pops John Cheplack, and so I met with him, hired him, got him a couple of speaking engagements at our corporate office in Florida, and everything was rolling. This 2007 was kind of a rough year. I don't know if it was for anybody else, but I lost everything. We tanked like major because we were transaction fee based, small monthly fee transaction fees, and we built these shit, I was young and dumb. I just built and built and built and didn't really pay attention to what I was spending. And when the transactions slowed down in 2007, 2008, the fixed expenses were far outrunning the transaction fees, and we just went into a tailspin. So I think a lot of people have heard my story, but the 30-second version is I lost it all, lost all the investor money, actually had to get out of real estate and got a $50,000 a year job selling air conditioning. And even that went to shit. And so 2010, I found myself living with a buddy of mine in Florida. We were working short sales. I lived in one of his kids' bedrooms, and it was just a mess. And John Cheplack called me. I remember it was September of 2010, and he calls me. He's like, "Dude, you know how he is, dude.
Yeah.
Have you hit rock bottom yet?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm close, but I think I can pull it out." He's like, "All right, I'll call you in a month." And calls me back in October. "Dude, have you hit rock bottom yet?" I'm like, "Yeah. I have no car, no money, no nothing. I'm on food stamps in the state of Florida. Literally had the card to go buy groceries with. And little known fact, you can't buy beer with food stamps. So, that puts squashes the party mode." So I'm like, "Yeah, I hit rock bottom." He's like, "All right, I'm going to send you a one-way ticket to Vegas. You're going to come work for me. We're going to build something, and I'm going to pay you whatever your child support is for each month, and that's it. I'll feed you and house you and pay you $1,000 a month." Like, I don't really have any choice, and let's do it. So went to Vegas and lived in a condo with him. Tim Merrill owned the condo at the time. Chris Weaver, me, Bo, a couple other guys, and we built a Craigslist listing lead platform thing that we sold to brokers. And so I would call and talk to brokers and do these webinars and show them how to use the program. And it's called Cheplack Leads. And so that lasted for a while. But I didn't like Vegas. And so I called my mom and I said, "Hey, Mom, I'm 45, 46 years old. Be okay if I came back home and lived with you for a little while and started over?" And she was kind enough to let me move back home. And so I got my real estate license reinstated, started calling expireds, called FSBOs, listed some listings, held some open houses, built it back up. And so here we are. But that was rock bottom.
Dude, I love a good comeback story with people, specifically with people. And I didn't know that part about you and John working together. And I'm not even sure I realized, because I've known each other for that long. I knew I knew that he was there for you, and you guys have obviously leaned on each other through some really tough times. I didn't know all those parts of the story. That's pretty amazing. And it's number one. So thanks for sharing, because I know that it's probably helping somebody right now who's listening. And it makes me just feel more connected to you and John both. So let me ask you a question, because here we are. We're at the time. Okay. We're recording this. It's December of 2018. Chances are someone's listening to this at a time in the future. And it's a little uncertain in a lot of markets around the country. A lot of people I talk to, everyone's kind of going like, what's going on? Like, is the economy good as it seems or no? I feel like every realtor is waiting for the next shoe to drop, because it's been so good for so long now. And what I'm thinking here is something you said a few minutes ago, Mark, was, so 2007 is happening, right? And your expenses are kind of out of control. And then the transactions, so the income starts to go away. How are you approaching this now? This is not a crystal ball statement. I'm not saying that things are changing next month, next quarter, next year, but how are you approaching things now from like a cost and control, and how do you predict how do you make sure your business stays intact and in fact thrives through whatever is coming up in the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing I learned from '07, '08 was you have to track everything, and you have to watch for the trends, and you have to be able to react and scale. You know, I'm a huge Zillow guy. I've been a huge fan of Zillow for a long time. I've stuck with them through thick and thin. And one of the things that they say internally at Zillow is scale thyself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, we're always trying to grow. Everybody wants to grow. Everybody wants to, but at the same time, I think there's a couple of analogies that I use when I talk to agents, but you know, I've got to be able to turn up the volume, but also turn it back at the appropriate times, right? And I learned this past year, I went in with this referral network that I built across the country, and I went big. I went freaking maxed it up to 11, and I quickly realized that it's very easy to outspend the pace that your agents can produce at. And so we had to scale it back. And it was interesting because the guy that I love, brilliant guy that was with Zillow at the time, is now on his own doing some consulting and coaching, John Bowler. You know, he kept telling me, slow down, let's grow responsibly, because we're growing quickly, but we're outrunning the profit. And so I did. I slowed down, and now I make more money on probably 25% of what I was spending before. I'm making more money at it because I've got the best agents and I've got the best markets, and I was able to figure out, you know, I call it horses and ponies, but same with racing cars, you're either on the gas or you're on the brakes. Coasting doesn't win races.
Yeah.
You know, lifting off the gas and just, well, am I going to make it into that turn or not? Let me put a little, no, you got to fucking go for it. So it's a same thing in business. So what I've learned is track everything. I'm watching trends. I'm looking at markets. I'm looking at what's happening. But I want to make sure any contracts I have or any commitments that I have are small, so that I can scale back to them. Even if I spend more, I don't want to be locked into anything that's too overwhelming, so that I can dial it back if I need to. The market's going to change. Everything is cyclical. I don't know about right now this being this massive shift or this massive, you know, change in the market. I think there's a little bit of unrest. I think that, but I also think this is very normal. And, you know, as we look at what we're doing and our numbers and our team year over year over year, I think units is going to go down a little bit, maybe a couple of percent, but I think average prices are going to continue to rise. I think there's money still to be made. I just think agents have to be cautious, you know, err on the side of caution. Don't stop. Don't come to a screeching halt just because some guru says the market's changing. You got to know your individual market. You got to know where you are and what's happening. Like, I'm in Austin, Texas, dude. It's freaking on fire. Apple announced yesterday another $1 billion facility here, another 15,000 employees. There's another major tech company, and of course the names can escape me. They're building a $1 billion facility here. I mean, we have the state capitol, we have the biggest university in the state, top 20 program in the country for football and revenue coming in. We got a lot of things working for us, but, you know, who's to say that 5 years from now, Austin doesn't slow down? You know, what's next? So you got to constantly be looking.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, for context too, I was looking at some of your stats earlier. You're 275 deals or so this year for just 85 million, right around there, probably maybe a little north, give or take a few dollars, just in Austin, right? Those are big numbers. There's
We'll do 35 million in Austin and about 110 deals. The rest of that is the national
the referral partner. That's right. Sorry about that. So
yeah.
So great. So that's a great segue, Mark. So talk to me about that. So because you've got a unique strategy on what as realtors we call expansion, right? Or somebody started calling expansion. And so your expansion business looks different than mine. And so tell me about yours. So you got a team in Austin. You sold $35 million worth this year, but then there's another $50 million, if I'm doing my math right, done outside of Austin. Like, how does that happen? Like, what's that look like for Mark Martin?
So I had this, I don't know how I came about it. I'm actually looking at the notes. When were we in LA together? That was 2 years ago?
No, that was actually, believe it or not, LA was February of this year.
No, the first LA with Joe. When you and Kevin got up and spoke, it was a while back. It was that? When Joshua was there. Was that this? That wasn't this year, was it?
Man. Yeah, me and Josh were both there.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So my memory's going. So I just kept looking. I kept hearing about expansion, and I kept hearing about all the different ways to do it. And I was seeing all these agents fly into Austin to go to the Keller Williams ESO, I think it was called, or expansion. And so I'm like, here I am with Remax, and each office is independently owned and operated. And so I kept looking at expansion because it's like the new wave, right? It's the new thing. And I was talking to a bunch of people, and people were really trying to figure out, like, how do you make money on it? How do you go in with brick and mortar, or do you not? And I all along had been doing really well with Zillow and here in Austin. And I kept looking at Zillow, and I'm like, wait a minute. So I can pretty much buy leads anywhere, and I can't expand with Remax because of the independently owned and operated thing. I went to Remax and I said, hey, I got this idea. Will you guys help me with this? And they're like, well, we love the idea, but each office is independently owned and operated, so we really can't help you, and they just kind of fell off. And so I'm like, all right. So I had this idea that if I know that Zillow leads, or I like calling them humans, right? There's a human on the other end of that computer. It's not just a lead, it's a human. But the humans, they want to buy a house. They want to have a great experience. They want to work with a great agent. They need to get pre-approved. How do they go through that process? It's not company specific. It's not Keller Williams or Remax or whatever. So I just kept noodling on it. And in typical Mark Martin style, I messaged number 2 at Zillow, and I said, hey, Greg, I want to spend $1 million a month on Zillow. And I haven't told this story to many people. So I said, I want to spend $1 million a month on Zillow. This was May of 2017. I said, I know if I spend $1 million, I can make $1 million to $1.5 million in profit a month. I only have one problem. I don't have $1 million a month. So I need you to introduce me to some people. So the next day, Greg emails me back or messages me back. He's like, wow, period. Because I would be their biggest client. USAA at the time was spending $250,000 a month. Owners.com was spending $150,000 a month. And I kept watching USAA, and that's when I discovered that USAA was charging a 42% referral fee to be a USAA agent and take these leads, I'm like, wait a minute. So there's 42% there to play with. I know what the leads cost. So is there enough margin in there for me to make some money? I'm like, well, what if I charge 50%? Because most of our referrals in this business are 25%, right? Hey, I got a great buyer for you, Kevin, moving to Phoenix, past client of mine, will you pay me 25%? You can do that all day long.
Yep.
Right? So like, all right, what if we double that? And I provide a little bit of coaching, a little bit of training, provide a CRM for them, and I provide the leads. So Greg messaged me back. He says, wow, I know some people. And so 60 days later, in typical Zillow fashion, they move quickly, they think big. We ran a pilot, got an investor, and started this thing. And October 1st, we launched officially. It was a bunch of background work that had to be done. We launched in October 1st. I think I got as big, I think my biggest month was 150,000 probably in April of this year. Never hit the million, but that's when John Bowler's like, slow down, slow down, slow down, because this was all before Premier Agent 4 and concierge only delivery and all that. So we had, I think, well, let me look. So this year, we had over 5,000 Zillow leads in the national referral network. So up until July, we were getting 600 to 700 a month. And I had, at that time, I had 24 agents in the program across the country. But we learned a ton, dude. It was the biggest experiment in human behavior I've ever done. Agents choke when you give them too many opportunities. They burn out. And there's this, everybody's gung-ho. It was not hard at all to find agents who wanted leads, right? There's no shortage of agents who want free leads. There's a huge shortage of agents who want to work. And so it's that was my realization, is I've got to find agents who can convert, who can turn these into dollars, because I'm on the hook for all this money. And so we ended up scaling it back, but I think my biggest, and Cheplak and I talk about this all the time, we talk about horses and ponies.
Yeah.
So I feed my horses and I starve my ponies.
Yep.
And through tracking, through profiling, through assessments that we built, we're able to figure out who are the horses. Even the horses burn out. And so you have to throttle back. You have to watch for indicators that they're burning out. I had an amazing agent in Arizona, in Phoenix. He was doing 6, 7, 8 deals a month, every month with us, rocking and rolling. I kept up in the spend. I think I was spending $15,000 a month in your market in the spring and summer. And then all of a sudden, I was like, where's my boy? Where's my man? And a couple of months went by, and I'm like, dude, we're eating up all the profits. Where are you? He's like, oh man, I got burned out. He's like, I just stopped. Thanks for letting me know, bro. So we had to turn it off. So he flamed out, and he was crushing it. So it just, you have to watch for those indicators of, they'll stop working the leads. They'll stop using the CRM. They'll stop responding to you. There's indicators of burnout. And so it was an interesting experiment. But just to give you an idea, so this year, 2018, we've brought in 4,452 leads. The agents made 18,000 calls, sent 15,000 emails, 18,000 texts, made 31,000 notes, completed 4,800 tasks, set 994 appointments, and closed 167 transactions for $49,854,000. So that's, I have to do the math on that. What is that in commission? $1.5 million. So all on a 50-50 split.
Dude.
So I made money on it, but it was,
could have made more.
Yeah, I could have made a lot more, but it's, at the end of the day, I proved that you can run a referral model, or call it expansion or whatever you want to call it, but I had no brick and mortar. I had no ISAs. I had a $499 a month CRM, follow-up boss, and I bought Zillow leads and I farmed them out through the Zillow system.
Dude.
So the margins are thin because the Zillow lead cost is typically 30 to 40% of the GCI, right? So there's about a 10, 15% margin in there for somebody like me. But I don't know, I made a little bit of money at it.
That's pretty
It was fun. But
First
now
of all,
we've scaled it way back.
I like that you were willing to go try something different. And you're like, hold on, there's a problem. I want in on this expansion thing. I see an opportunity. And you kind of worked within the constraints of what your company offered, or I should say worked around them. And so you weren't stepping on toes and weren't adding any undue cost and headache to your business. I really love just the way you look at it. It's like there's a mastermind I'm in it's non-real estate. And one of the guys is always saying like, listen, so a lot of times what we learn here, it's not spoon fed. And it's not always so obvious. Sometimes it's, you hear an idea and it's not the way it's presented, but it's when you start to look at it from 45 degrees differently and you see it at a different angle. And I feel like that's what you did. And you saw an opportunity and went after it. And obviously, luckily you made some money on it and are really more clear now on what it is going forward. And by the way, that's been my experience with our models and expansion too, is we make some money, we take some losses, right? Could have made more money, definitely could have lost less money in some cases, in some scenarios. And then you go and you just make it a little bit better and you make it a little bit better and a little bit better. And the hope is, right, over time, and I don't know, this is a great big experiment. You mentioned the word experiment in human behavior.
Right.
I feel like all businesses on some level, right? But what we hope is over the course of a year or 2 or 5 years or 20 years, whatever this looks like, that we've got this very sustainable model that we've just dialed in a little bit better every quarter, every year, and started to be better at what we do if we're learning and willing to be coached and things like that.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, it was a ton of fun. It was a lot of sleepless nights getting it built and getting it going. But I think the agents learned a lot about themselves. I think the agents learned a lot about, lead conversion, and I hope they're all better for it now. I'm in 6 markets. We were in 26 markets at the peak. Now I'm in 6 markets. Probably go to 10 this coming year. I'll probably add 4 or 5 more, but we really have it dialed in now on exactly what we're looking for, both from a lead costs, demographic, and what's the market like, but also the agent. What's the perfect agent look like?
Yeah.
And how do they test and we built an assessment with a company called Third Pool that Zillow had been doing some trials with, and one of the owners of Third Pool and I really hit it off. And I'm like, so you guys have this assessment that you run these agents through and you can tell like core capacities, right? Core traits. And he's like, yeah. And I said, well, so disc test measures surface traits, what I call surface traits. He's like, yeah, but you want to know who they are as a person, right? And so he told me the story. He's like, you can teach a German Shepherd to go in the pond and fetch a ball. It might take a while, but you can teach the dog to go in the pond and get the ball. You don't have to teach a Labrador. So hire Labradors. The Labrador just goes and gets it, right? He's got the core, it's bred into the Labrador to go get the ball in the cold water. Like, I don't care, it's a pond, I'm going to go get the ball. And so that's what we look for. So we tested my Austin team with this assessment because I had horses here, and tried and true every month after month, they're getting it. Then I had a great admin at the time, so we tested her, and of course she's polar opposite of what a successful buyer's agent profile looks like.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, this is fantastic. So then we tested the whole referral network, and I'll be damned if it wasn't over 80% accurate of who my best performers were, all tested green. And so the assessment that we built, it comes back basically red light, green light, yellow light. So green's good, yellow's caution, they're probably not going to work, and reds are definitely not going to work for what you're trying to do. And I took some chances. I mean, we all have friends, we all have relationships in the business that we think, man, the test is probably wrong, right? But I mean, that dude's good, or she's amazing, and look at her up on stage and she does all these great things. She tested red, but I'm going to take a chance. Sure enough, the test was right.
You know, two things here. Number one is I want people to make sure they don't hear that you have to be green to be a successful real estate agent, because that's not what you're saying.
Exactly.
Because, right. People of all different behavior types succeed at high levels in real estate, but you are looking, your program, your model is something very specific. And yes, when you've got the right behavior match, you know, it's like this, and their chance of success, obviously behavior does not guarantee it, but it skyrockets when you've got that green light as opposed to, say, a yellow or obviously a red. So number one, I love that. Number two, so is this like, can anybody go to this website or this company and get an assessment? Can they get it from you? I mean, tell me about this assessment a little bit more, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so it costs me $125 every time I put somebody through it, because they come back with, we get the assessment results, but then Third Pool will analyze it and give me commentary on where this person is struggling, or what energies they're conflicted with. So one of my favorite sayings that we coined during the whole thing was, don't try to fix my Ferrari, just get in and drive. Okay. One of the biggest challenges we run into with people and agents, humans, is they want to fix it. They'll get in, they like aspects of it, but they want to try to tweak it or fix it or change it, or, hey, you should do this, or, hey, no, just, it works. Let's get in and work and do it, and just do it over and over and over again. So to get the assessment, I've got a URL, and I'm working with Third Pool on how do we do it at scale. And so to get the assessment, I'll get you something on that here soon so that we can get it out to folks. But
cool.
It's spot on. So it'll be I think it'll be the next DISC test. It's good, very, very accurate, and we can tweak it based on the position.
I like that. You know, you said something else too about something that's important, I think, about understanding behavior that we don't always think about, or maybe it's just not taught as much. But you know, a DISC is an example. I'm very familiar with the DISC, and so your behavior, you know, high D behavior is going to show up a certain way, right? Or high I behavior is going to show up a certain way, and you can see it from across the room. And that behavior looks like, you know, they're mingling and going and talking to everybody, or whatever that looks like. But the thing is it's not the behavior, it's what caused that behavior. That's the thing, is what is it that made them walk across the room and say hi to all 17 people in the room, right? Within the first 5 minutes. And I think when we can key in on that stuff and start to understand other humans, as you said, like at that level, that's when we can really, number one, help. And number two, I think just progress in our relationship, whether that is, you know, a business relationship, a client-agent relationship, whatever that looks like. And I think that's so huge, to be able to understand behavior on a deeper level, no matter what you do as your profession, no matter what role you have in this industry or any other for that matter.
Well, absolutely. And you have to put the right people in the right roles. And there is a definite place for highly analytical, very smart people who love numbers, who want to dissect everything 10 different ways. I have a huge need for that, but that's not going to be a great buyer's agent, right? I mean, if you want to be a data scientist, let me help point you in a direction of being a data scientist. But, you know, I need people who, within Third Pool, we call it merchants. The people who make great buyer's agents are merchants. They if you think about a merchant, you have to have inventory, you have to have a storefront, you have to have customers, and then those customers need to keep coming back.
Yeah.
And they need to tell other people about your shop and what you've got. And so that's the key to the whole thing, because the referral network was built upon the premise of, yes, I'm going to take 50% of your first deal that you close with that lead, but then that's your client for life.
Yep.
And if you do it right, you're going to get 3 to 5 transactions out of that client, the lifetime value of a client. I'm covering your CAC, your client acquisition cost, right? But you get the benefit of the lifetime value of that client. So now I'm looking at, okay, one of the reasons I just went independent is, how do I get deeper into each agent's opportunities, and how do I help them grow those repeat and referral deals? And can I take a small chunk of that? I may or may not be able to, but that's where I'm headed next, is how do I, and you guys have already done this with your expansion teams, and that's where I'm behind, is how do I go deeper with them and be involved on all of their deals, not just the first deal, right? So that's what I'm looking at now.
Yeah, and
we know we can make money.
Yeah, and the cool part about that is when you can do that, it does what they call it deepens your bench, right? Because you probably have come across some really phenomenal people that you can have this referral relationship with, but if you could actually create a business relationship that's more continuous, right? And then you never know what the two of you can then start to create beyond that, or what the collective is of 4 or 5 folks like that. Like, you've got a team of just absolute just absolute rock stars in Austin, and you've got some individuals around the country. And what if you had, what if that all multiplied by 3 or 4? And obviously at that point, that's when your possibilities just go through the roof. So, hey, we're running short on time. Like I promised I'd get you out of here by the top of the hour. One of the things I wanted to make sure we talked about, though, is so we talked about your Austin business. We talked about your expansion model. And but also, I know you're doing some coaching too of agents as well. Now, are these just agents that are in your referral network? Are they outside of your network? What's that like?
No, I coach. I was able to. Several of my coaching clients over the last couple of years have been in the referral network. A couple of them still are. But the coaching, I was coached by Dirk Zeller starting in 2012, and Dirk coached me for 3 years, still coaches me. But he asked me, he's like, why don't you become a coach? I'm like, I never really thought about that. I was so deep into production. But then I kept talking with different people, and I had lunch with a guy locally, Chad Goldwasser. You may know Chad.
Oh, yeah.
But Chad and I had lunch, and he's like, he was doing his thing, and he's like, man, if I never went on another listing appointment, I'd be so happy. And I was like, dude, if I never went on another listing appointment, I would be ecstatic. How do I do that? And so I started talking to Dirk about that, and he's like, you need to hire a listing specialist, but you got to hire the right listing specialist, because that's the biggest profit center in your business.
Yep.
So to be able to step away from that, and he's like, then you need to start coaching. And so it took me a year to find the right listing specialist, and I found her, and she's freaking amazing. And so I started coaching, and found out that I loved it, and I have a ball with it. Every coaching client is different. I coach teams, I coach individual agents, I coach new agents, I coach I've coached teams that are doing 1,400 deals a year. I've coached teams that are doing a couple of hundred deals a year. And I learn just as much as I teach.
Yeah.
The teacher becomes the student in many cases, and the sharing and just getting deep into their business and into their lives and the struggles and all of that. It's fabulous. I love the coaching aspect. So 2.5 years ago, Dirk asked me to become the president of his company. He's got about 4 or 5 years left, and he asked me to help kind of mold the company and then subsequently take it over. And so I very happily accepted that. And so I've been the president of Real Estate Champions now for about a year and a half. And we haven't made any big moves yet. I've got some big moves on my board, and I put them out today, but I want to add 4 or 5 more coaches. I want to add some sales staff. We never have aspirations of being a Tom Ferry or anything like that. We know what our lane is, and we really do well at helping single agents and team leaders scale. And how do you scale while always keeping an eye on net profit? For us, the number one thing we talk about and work on is net profit. We don't talk about units. We don't talk about dollars. We don't talk about, we want to focus on net profit. And it's tough to keep it in mind for my own darn business, right? Yeah, it's like, you know, you can spin to the moon and let the ego take over, but at the end of the day, you got to make a profit. That's what drives everything else. And so investment properties and retirement and all of that, Dirk has just been a huge help for me in that area. And so that's the coaching piece. I love it. Don't know that we'll ever be a $20 million coaching company like Tom or Mike, or, you know, they're even bigger than that, but that's not our wheelhouse. We want to go deep and create great relationships. I want to grow it, but I want to grow it responsibly.
Tell me the name of the company again.
Real Estate Champions. So
Perfect.
Dirk, Zeller, and Real Estate Champions.
Real Estate Champions. Very cool. All right, buddy. Well, I've got one final question for you. It's a question I like to ask all my guests. And it's just, is this simply, so someone comes to you and they say, Mark, I need some advice. Give me your top 3 tips for just kicking more ass in life. What are they? What are the secrets, if you will?
So I learned them from a random post by Ben Kinney a couple of years ago. And it's three simple things. Number one is think bigger. You've got to think bigger. No matter where you're at, you're just going to stay where you're at unless you think bigger. Number 2 is take risk. You have to become a risk taker. At some point, you have to get comfortable with losing everything. I lost everything. I hit rock bottom. I never want to go to rock bottom again. But if I did, if something happened, I know exactly how to get right back out of it. And so I'm willing to take more risk and take a chance, okay? So risk is a big part of it. And the last one that I love so much that very few people understand and very few people do. So number 1 is think bigger. Number 2 is take risk. Number 3 is say no. Mm-hmm. Say no to the people and the things around you that are holding you back. If you're in a relationship or you have friendships or you have peer groups or you have whatever, and they're telling you you can't do it, or they're telling you you're not going to be able to make that happen, or that won't work, or whatever, say no and go do what you want to do. Take the risk, think bigger, but we have to say no to what's dragging us down and keeping us held back. So I can't take credit for it. I give Ben Kinney the credit for that. He put it up in a post somewhere I saw, and I wrote it down on my whiteboard, and it's still on my whiteboard. And it's like every day I look at that and I teach it and I live it.
That's awesome, man. Dude, Mark, thank you so much for your time today, man. I am looking forward to seeing you again very soon in a room.
Absolutely. January.
Yeah, a few of our other friends from around the country, and I'm looking forward to hanging out. So thanks so much for your time. One more thing, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you, follow you, connect with you? Is that Facebook? Is it somewhere else? Website?
Yeah, Facebook. My profile's public on Facebook, just Mark Martin. Email's easy, markmartinonline@gmail.com. I try to get back to everybody. I love meeting everybody in this industry, and I'm having fun. I finally reached a point where it's like, dude, this is fun. I'm having fun.
That's awesome, man. I love hearing that. All right, brother. Well, we're going to get out of here, and I will talk to you again soon.
All right. See you in January.
All right, buddy. See you then. Bye-bye.
All right.